warm welcome to all the aspirants out there. In our last lecture, we have discussed about the works of Geoffrey Chaucer. In this video, we would be discussing his one of the most important and one of the most interesting work written by Chaucer, which is the Canterbury Tales. It was written between 1387 to 1400. Mean the date has not been fixed. Probably we can decide it in between 1387 to 1400. So why we consider is one of the most interesting work written by Chaucer, because it contains 24 characters. It would give a description of 14th century society. I mean, in this work he would be describing how was the society at that time. Although the character would be fictional, but the description he would be giving, we would get a glimpse of 14th century society, that how the persons were there, what was their way of thinking, what were their gestures and their function of working, talking in between themselves and in among their peers. So I would be giving you a certain kind of objective knowledge which would be very essential for you guys for your NET examination, because we would be describing it through the perspective of NET examination. So I will be giving you a certain tidbit of knowledge about this work. We would not be giving you a very lengthy summary, but by our objective description we would be giving you a kind of summary of this work. So here are some of the facts about this work which would be very essential from the point of NET examination. So you can cram it or you can note down it in your notebooks. So first of all, they can ask you that how many stories are there in the Canterbury Tales. So it has been written here that it is a collection of 24 stories, and this work is written in 17,000 lines. It is very essential from the perspective of NET examination, because they can ask you that how many lines are there in the work Canterbury Tales. So you can just go through it and you can remember it by heart, that there are 24 stories and which has been written in 17,000 lines. And these tales are mostly written in verse. I mean, most of the tales are written in verse, kind of poem type, which you can sing and which are having a kind of lyric or which are having a kind of rhythm in that. So, but there are, I think, two tales written in it which are in prose, which you cannot sing. So, but most of the tales are written in verse and some are in prose, as I have said. The world is like a part of a story telling contained by a group of pilgrims. So I can give you a very introductory kind of piece of this work that you will find here, that this work will run like a story because there are certain kind of characters involved in it. These characters are talking among themselves and they are deciding a kind of pilgrimage kind of visiting a holy place. So these persons are visiting a holy place, and this group of pilgrims, they organize a kind of contest, because if you are going to some place, then definitely, and if your journey is very lengthy, you would think of organizing something. You would think like how we can spend our time so that we can easily reach our place with a great heart, with a relaxed mind. So they also organize a kind of contest among themselves. So these pilgrims are traveling from London to Canterbury. Please do keep these things in your mind, because these tiny details are very important from the perspective of your examination, because examiner can ask you very frequently these things, that where from which place to which place these persons were traveling. So they were traveling from London to Canterbury to visit this shrine of St. Thomas Becket. This was a place to which they are going to visit, and they are going to visit their kind of homage to that saint. So, and they keep a prize also. The prize for the contest is the free meal. Please do keep this thing in mind. They can ask you that what was the prize for organizing this contest, and so the prize for this contest is the free meal at the Tabard Inn. Tabard Inn, please keep it in your mind. They can ask you that in which inn they were going to organize their free meal prize at Southwark on their return. Fictional characters, as I have already said that these characters are fictional. I mean, they are the product of the imagination of Chaucer. These are not real characters, but what I have said, these characters are very much symbol of the 14th century people. I mean, you would find that elite class, working class, lower class and priests and all these things. So these characters will give you a glimpse of 14th century society, and these characters are very much representative of their class, because they would be giving you all the glimpses, all the things of their society. And structurally, if we say that these work resembles to Decameron, a very famous work written by Boccaccio. So examiner can ask you these things as well. Please don't take these things lightly, because they are very, very important from your objective examination, because all the question will be examination objective. They would be asking you certain question, then there will be 4 options, and you have to mark some 1 point only. And as other works of Chaucer, this work is also incomplete work. So aspirant, I think till now you have understood the introduction of the Canterbury Tales. Now we will go by the in 2 parts this work has been divided. First is the general prologue, and the second one are tales. I mean tale, the characters are speaking some kind of stories in this work. So I will be describing you those things later on, but here we will be going by the first part, which is a general prologue of the Canterbury Tales. These are 30 pilgrims are introduced according to the prologue. His intention was to write 2 stories of each individual. Why there are 2 stories? Because on the way they would be describing one story, and from coming back their destination they would be describing one more stories. So there would be 2 stories by each character given in this work. So as I have said, this is the collection of stories. So these are the same stories which these characters would be describing during their journey. One is on the way and one is from returning from their destinations. They describe not the tale to be told, but the people who will tell them. Describes about the tales to be told, but the people who will tell them. So this is all about some introduction of the prologue, and so I am giving you a very, very brief description about the major characters involved in this pilgrimage. First is the narrator. Chaucer himself, Geoffrey Chaucer, who is the main writer of this work. He is the narrator of this general prologue. And the second one is the knight, people who fight in war. So this is the major, very essential character of this work, the Canterbury Tales. They can ask you many questions by the character of the knight. So the knight, first character to be introduced, he represents ideal of medieval Christian man at arms, admired by narrator. This character, the knight, he represents the manhood of a person. He represented how an ideal knight should be, how he should fight in war, and this character has been admired a lot by the narrator, means by the Chaucer himself. And the second character is the wife of Bath. Bath is the name of a town. This is a quote given by Geoffrey Chaucer to describe the character of this woman who has been called the wife of Bath. She seems stressed by occupation, but she seems to be a professional wife. I mean, they can ask you this question, that these lines have been written for whom? So you can see that these lines has been written for the wife of Bath. She has been married 5 times. So please keep these things in mind and don't take these things very lightly. This lady has been married 5 times. She had many love affairs and she is deep in 1 year. So these are minute details about characters which your examination can ask you very frequently, and you cannot neglect these points at any cost, because your examination is going to be objective type. So if you are taking these lightly, you are going to lose 1 mark of yours. So please do pay attention here and keep these things in your mind, that she is deep in 1 ear and has a gap between her front teeth, which was considered attractive in Chaucer's time. In today's time it can be considered ugly, but at that time it was considered a sign of attractiveness. And she has travelled Jerusalem for 3 times. Her character experience based. We can see that the character of this wife of Bath is based on her experiences. And please do keep this thing in mind, that in previous question papers, previous NET year, they have asked this question, that whose character is based on experience. So the character of the wife of Bath is based on experience. And the fourth character is the pardoner. Pardoner grants papal for indulging reprieve from Penang in exchange for charitable donation. I mean, he is a kind of very shrewd and mean man. He distributed some kind of paper to people. Paper means a kind of paper which grants you forgiveness for all your sins. I mean, in Christianity they are having some kind of rule. If you are paying to us, we will be giving you some kind of paper. This paper has been given by Pardner. Pardner are saint of some Christian religion. They would be distributing some papers to you, and by these papers you will be devoid of your sins, but you have to pay for them. He collects profit for themselves by distributing these papers. He is represented as a fraud character. We can see he is a fraud character, and he claims to have the veil of Virgin Mary, and he is having a talent of singing and preaching. I am telling you all these things because they can ask you these things as well, because they can ask you who was the character who was excelled in singing and preaching. Then you can mark the Pardner here. They can ask you who was the character who was fraud, same this man Pardner. And they can ask you who was the character who claims to having the veil of Virgin Mary. So you would be keeping in mind that he was the Pardner. So till now we have discussed 4 characters given in the Canterbury Tales by Chaucer. So we are going to describe a 5th character here, the Miller. He is stout and brawny. Stout, he is very strong by his physics, and he is brown in color. He has a wart on his nose. He has a big mouth. These are tiny details about these characters. Please do keep these things in your mind, because your examination can give you tiny details about your character, and he can ask you to identify you the character. So please don't take these details in a light manner, because they are extremely important from your examination perspective. Do remember these things, note down these things, and revise these things till your examination, and because these are very essential to fetch your marks in your main examination. So he ruined the host notion of planned storytelling order. I am giving you some very essential and very tiny details about each character, because it shows their individual characteristics, and these are the things which the examination can ask you anytime in your exam. And the 6th character is the prioress. She is modest and quiet. Who is the prioress? Prioress is the nun who is head of her convent. She knows table manners very well, and she is dainty in her table manner. She behaves in a very good manner while she is having dinner or lunch or at her table. She knows French. She is very fluent in French language, and she has a brooch on which this sign has been written, "Love conquers all." Please do keep this thing in your mind, because examination can ask you this thing, that who was the character who was having a brooch, and on that brooch what was the sign which was written there. So this was a word written there, that love conquers all. The 7th one is the monk. He lived in a monastery according to the rule of Saint Benedict, which demanded that they devote their lives to work and prayer and care little about rules. Devotion is hunting and fating, hunting and eating. Means you can see these characters like the prioress, the monk, the friar, which I will be telling you. These are religious group at that time, and you can see that these characters are like this monk. He is quite contradictory to his profession. He is not too much into religious things. He was not too much into spiritual activities. Rather, he is very fond of hunting and eating. He does not live in monastery even. He lives in monastery. But he is fake by his nature. You can see that he is dual, like he is not indulging himself in religious activities. He is rather into hunting and eating a lot. And the 8th one is the friar. He is a roaming priest. He means he is very fond of roaming and preaching people. He is a roaming priest, always ready to befriend young women and rich men. He accepts bribes. He is fond of taking money by them. We can see he also belongs to a religious group, but he is also paradox to his character. Please do not get confused while reading these things, because they are having some kind of similarity between them, but they are having some individual characteristic of themselves at the same time. So please do not get confused in remembering these things. So the ninth one is the summoner. He brings person accused of violating church law to law, and he is a lecherous man. Lecherous, he is vulgar in nature, and he is scarred by leprosy. He is affected by leprosy, a kind of disease, skin disease. And the 10th one is parson. He is only devout churchman. Means please do keep this in mind. The parson is the only true person who is truly devoted to his religious activities. He is devoted churchman in the company. Means these characters are kind of contradictory to their profession, but he is a true man to his profession. He lives in poverty, and he is rich in holy thoughts, and he preaches the gospel. Then the 11th one is the square. Square is the son of that knight which I had described you earlier. He is a knight's son. He is youthfully handsome, and he loves dancing and courting. According to his age, he is very fond of dancing and courting young girls or young women. The 12th one is the clerk. He is a poor student of philosophy. He spends his money on books and learning rather than on fine clothes. He is a threadbare, a very thin person. He speaks little. He is very taciturn. Means taciturn, a person who speaks very little. And the 13th one, the man of law. He is a successful lawyer, and he is commissioned by the king. These are minor details about every character. You can see that all these are having some kind of individual characteristic of their which examination can ask you. So please do keep them in your mind. The man of law is a successful lawyer. He is commissioned by the king. Then 14th one is the mancipal. He was in charge of getting provisions for a college or court. Then the 15th one is the shipman. He is brown skin and a bit of rascal. Rascal, mean fellow, known for stealing wine while the ship's captain sleeps. He is the thief in his nature. He is fond of taking off things without permission. And the 16th one is physician, a kind of person who treats people. He is rarely concerned for Bible. I mean, he is not having any belief in Bible. He does not work according to Bible, and has an unhealthy love for financial gain. He knows the cause of every malady. I mean, he is quite proficient in his profession. And 17th one, Franklin. Franklin means a free man. Free man. He is neither a vassal serving a lord nor a member of nobility. Please do keep these lines in your mind, because examination can ask you that who was the person who was neither a vassal serving a lord nor a member of nobility. So who was he? He was the Franklin, and he is a foodie. I mean, he was fond of eating too much. And the 18th one is the plowman. Plowman, brother of parson. It is also an objective detail. Brother of parson, and he is a member of peasant clan. Peasant class, farmers, and he leads a good Christian life. He is a good Christian man. And the 19th one is guidesman. He is listed together. The 5 guidesmen appear on a unit. I mean, they are member of 5. They are a group of 5 people, but they are as a whole one. Their English guide were combination of labor unions. And the 20th one is the cook. He works for guidesmen. Chaucer mentions a crushy sore on Cock's leg. I mean, he is having a sore on his leg. And the 21st one is the yeoman. He is a servant of knight. So please do keep these things detail in your mind, because these may sound very trivial to you, but these are not trivial anyway, because examiner can ask you that who was he. He can give you one characteristic, 2 characteristic, or he can give a particular line about any character and ask you to find out who is the right character. And one more thing which I would like to point out here is, you would see that he is giving a parson, a knight, a physician. So these are certain people of their society at that time who represent their society, and you would find he is not describing any elite class. He is not describing those people who are superly elite, or he is not describing those people who are super poor. So he is describing those people who belongs to middle group, who belongs to middle class. So as a whole, we can see a subjective question here also, but your purpose is to prepare it in an objective manner. So do go through these things, because they are very essential, and I am sure these going to help you before your examination to make a quick revision of your subject and to get you more confident while giving examination. And at the end, a big thank you from me and the side of my team. And please do share, subscribe our channel, and do your comments, write your queries out there. We would try to solve it. And in our upcoming lesson, we would be giving you a very awesome series on William Langland and Gower. We would also describing you about Chaucer's tales, which would be essential for your examination. And I hope it would help you. And at the end, thank you once again, and all the best for your examination.